Welcome everyone to the next round of painting from home. We've been doing a little bit of exploration into different sorts of surfaces and paints to use. This is going to be round 2 of our paper towel experiments. We have a number of things that you can get. You can print off a picture of the hedgehog. I have that on the assignment list as well, so I'm going to be utilizing this for some of the initial setup. As you can see, I got some paints here as well. I'm going to move these over and kind of get ourselves centered and ready to go. I find that it's helpful to do a preliminary drawing of the animal that we're trying to do. Maybe we go over here a little bit like this. But it's not necessary that you do all of the details on it. Just enough to tell where some things are, so you can make it work. Because this technique of using these paper towels kind of abstracts things. There's not a lot of detail. If we get the proportions down correctly, it will probably work better for us on a guide. So I have my hedgehog here, and so on my picture of that. So let's do a few things. I always like to start out, for some reason, I like to start out with eyes, with people, animals, any sort of a thing that we're going to be painting. Just because it's a good marker of where things are. So there's a big solid curve down here. This is that rounded pencil that I was using last time as well, so we're going pretty good here. And so that's that inside curve. This one is a little more rounded. If anything, his eyes kind of bulge out a little bit on those. And so that's the base guy we have over here on this side. Now I'm going to bounce over here. And as far as distance between, I'm just kind of guessing. It looks to me like for this paper towel, maybe 1.5 inches distance on that. And so his eye socket is here, and then his eye bulges out just a little bit like that. And so that's going to be helpful for us for knowing where the eyes are. Now from there, I'm going to build down to the nose. The nose kind of makes almost a little bit of a triangle shape as we look over here on that one. That it's almost a equal triangle on that one, where they're all the sides. That equilateral triangle where all the sides are the same. On that, this distance compared to this distance compared to this distance is about the same. So as we come down here on the nose, I'm going to put it kind of right in the center, and then let's build that, make kind of a U shaped for his nose with those. And it's kind of flatter on the bottom there. It looked to me like he had some little nostril things kind of happening this way, so if we make some little tiny arcs like that, that'll be a good guide for him on that one. Now the next thing that I kind of wanted to put on there was the ears, and they kind of go in a line just right up and from the nose to the eyes to the ears, also about the same distance as you look at that one. So if I go from here to here to here, and then I put an ear in, let's say here, and they're a little sharper than that, maybe about like that. And then I go over here, I do the same thing, the same line going up here, and then maybe have his ear here, like that. That will work for me. And then I wanted to put his feet in too, because he has some little teeny pink feet going on this painting here too. And so those are kind of right under the eyes a little bit. At least this first one is. The other one's going to be off the side. And it's not that far. And so I'm just going to make a little bit of a line like this. And I'm going to make it, he has 4 toes that I can see. And I'm doing just something to represent those toes on the detail. I mentioned in the instruction, or the initial introduction on this one, that the details of the we're working from, they're not there as much. There's not a lot of detail in the painting because of this medium, and that's okay. It makes a more expressive sort of thing. So I don't have to worry about drawing the exact detail of every single toe and that sort of a thing. I can just have some ideas where things are going. We're going to let the paint do a little bit of its expressive work there. Okay, so I've drawn these. This is just parallel with the nose, right? And it's just kind of under the ear. And I just put a few there because they're kind of covered up by the fur. in the painting itself. I'm getting a little bit of light coming in from the side here on my where I'm working, which is I guess that's kind of good. Can't see the drawing quite as well. Maybe if we do a little bit shadow, you can kind of see that a little bit better here, like that of where the drawing is. Okay, let's go ahead and do a little bit of painting. That would be a good idea. I'm going to just move some of this kind of out of the way. Maybe we'll pop it up here so I can kind of see what's going on with him. Okay, brush, brush, brush. Now, I've discovered that you can work, some of the first stuff you do is a little bit lighter on those, and that's kind of cool. And so I had some brownish colors here that I was going to initially put in on this guy, and that's where his hair is right here, is on that. And so between the ears, maybe down like this, and this is a lot of water, right? This is more water. That's the thing we discovered is that we can put in the paints and the water will really disperse it out a little bit. And I'm going to put maybe a little bit of a dash over here. Now your painting doesn't have to be exactly like mine. I think I've mentioned that at least a couple of times. We're just trying to get some ideas of how we can go about it. If yours doesn't look exactly like this, that's okay with those. Let's do, I'm trying to find some other things. So I got a little bit of a brown. I'm going to utilize some black on that. Oh, before I go black, let's do this. I wanted to get a little bit of his feet. Remember I told you his feet were kind of a pinkish color? So I got a little bit of some reds over here, and so I'm just going to kind of hit that area with some of those, with some of that pinky reddy color here. And we're going to let the drawing be the detail, and the paint kind of be the accent, so it blurs together, and that's okay. I'm good with that happening. Oh, I want to put some pink in his nose. There's not a lot of pink in his nose over here, but I found that that's kind of a cool thing, just letting it go out there. All right, let's do some black. All right. Now the black I have right here initially is just a little bit thicker on our applications, and so I'm gonna see how well that spreads there. See, that's a pretty solid black in there for his ear. And let's get a little more water in there. There we go. Let's spread that out. Maybe take some of this black over here so it spreads out into his ear a little more. And I'm going to utilize just putting some, see how this is much heavier of a black. It doesn't spread very far. It's staying pretty close. And as such, it's a little bit darker, a little bit heavier on those. And so when I'm looking at this, there's just like little teeny black triangle-y sort of things between where his between actually the quills or whatever of his spines or fur. I'm not sure exactly what that we're going to be calling that. You'll notice that now the paint is starting to dissipate a little bit, right? It's a little bit thinner, a little bit more watery, and so I can put these little pieces in that are going to spread a little bit more. I did have the cool things where the ears are spreading a little bit, right? But now these little medium values of these little jabs of paint as they're coming in here are starting to work for us. I got to have a little more room up here. And the other thing we discovered from our last adventure in doing these paper towels is that when it dries, it does dry out a little bit lighter. I had to go back in after I was done. Came back in the afternoon after I had done the painting, and I was looking at it and said, man, this was a lot darker when I painted it initially. And as such, I went back in and put in some accents and stuff with a little bit of the darker values. And that worked out just splendid. So with this one, it's kind of interesting because when I put these little dots like this, when I initially put them in there, they're looking pretty heavy. You know, it looks pretty like there's a lot of paint in there, but it's mostly the water and the reaction with the paper towel. And as such, when it dries out, it's going to be a little drier, which is okay. That's what I actually want here. I wanted a little bit of that lighter value of paint in here, and so I'm not getting as much of the paint in with the water with those. This one's a little bit heavier on those, that we can come up and have a few little dabs in there as well. And then this kind of comes out maybe over here. Okay. So far so good. All right. Let's take this over a little bit more here and take some of these out this way. He does have a little bit of his body comes out this side. His face is kind of framed in though with white, and so that his face area is going to be a lot of the just the water, the paper on those. Okay, gotta bring this down here a little bit for his body, and have some more of those little dabbers. There's not quite as many of them over to the side over here as we work with it. There's more in and up through this area, and he's kind of tall on that. He's not really that short, kind of a poof ball sort of a thing. All right, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I've just put this down initially here so we can kind of track out where some of the stuff is. There are some that are darker, some that are lighter, but I've kind of blocked in, for lack of a better term, so where some of his fur and those sorts of things are on his body, and so I'm getting kind of an idea of that. Another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to put some sort of a ground for him to be on. And so in looking at the paint or the picture or the reference photo we have up here, we have a little bit more of some stuff underneath his legs here. So this is a green. I just decided, yeah, green's a good color. And so underneath here, this is kind of the shadow area of his body, you know, that he's sitting on some things. And I'm going to come here just a little bit away from the pink, you know, so there's a little bit of separation there, and then he has a little bit of an angle right there, right? And then a little bit more of the pink coming over here like that, or the green. And we can take all that down over here. As we start to add through this. And so that's a pretty good application for just a moment on that. I have a little bit of an idea of something I wanted to try here. Let's do that. Trying to block off a little bit of the light coming in from that side, and I think we can see things a little bit better that way. Okay. Now we can see a little bit better. Oh, that's a good green. Huh? Let's put that in there. All right. Now I want to come in. This is going to be a little bit more of a heavier black on those. I didn't want it to spread as far. When we start to go into things like his eyes or his nose and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to start out just by touching it and just touching it in a little bit here and there, so that we can get so we have a little more control of how far that spreads. Okay, maybe a little bit of a dot there, a little bit of a dot there. Okay, now I didn't dip my brush in any water this time. Once again, I just want to kind of dab in and see where it is. So I took my brush that's fairly dry right now, and I just painted it onto my watercolor paint, so that when I touch it, it's not going to spread very far. Notice how this one doesn't spread very far at all with those. So I'm making a little C type of a thing, and now I'm going to come back to this side as well. I want to leave a little bit of a white area in there, a catch light. That's what we're after, down through here. Notice it doesn't spread quite as far. It still diffuses as it comes in there, so that it does spread. You know, I'm not saying it's going to stay exactly where it is, and that's okay. But it does stay a little bit more localized on what we're doing. As such, now with that same thing, I'm going to come here with I'm just painting back on top of the paint in the tray again, and I'm able to create a little bit more of an edge where it's depositing the black, and the black isn't spreading. And that's kind of to give us a little more detail. So it goes fuzzy. We have some sharp edge, you know, as much as we can, and then we have some dark edge stuff too on those. I wonder if we did a little bit here with the toes. So I'm going to go down a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of go over a little bit, so that maybe there's a little volume in that. And so I come down like this, and then kind of go over, come down on the same lines, come over a little bit, come down, and then over. So it creates a little bit of a hint of maybe the toe, just with a little bit of the brush on with that. Oh, that's splendid. That's working out pretty cool. Okay, I want to come back. Let's build up some more back over here. You can see it's starting to dry a little bit, huh? On things. So I'm going to start back down here. Going to put a few more dabs on top dabs, because you're going to have areas where it's high concentration, you know, where it's heavy, and then you're going to have areas that are a lighter value, and that we're working with. And so we can do both on here. This one looked like we almost got it completely dissolved out here, where it just dissipated so much. There we go. Now around his nose here, it's a little bit of a dark area there too, so I don't want very much pigment at all on this one. I'm going to use my tray a little bit to mix and see what color I have. There's kind of a I don't want a lot of color at all, and so off of here I'm just going to maybe put a few things like that go back towards the eyes, you know, but it's just a little bit of a slightly darker area like that. Now when that dries, that's going to dry out a little bit lighter too, which is going to be good. Oh no, so I like that. I wonder that brown that I had? I want it to be fairly dry, because I'm trying to just establish a boundary between him and the ground. So I'm making just a little bit of a pyramid type of a thing in here. So this is kind of a shadowy area that we're working with. Maybe put a little more out here with that brown. And I'm painting the top of the brown again so I can get a little bit more pigment, a little bit darker, to create the shadow area that I wanted. And then maybe over here with that brown color. Okay, that's coming along pretty good. What about maybe some more of those little browns that we had in here? Do we just bring them out just a little bit more? They'll diffuse, that's okay. And then down over here as well. Okay. All right. The next thing I wanted to do, as we work towards getting this guy wrapped up, the background, he's white, right? He has a lot of white in here, and the background is really, really white as well. So I wanted to come and get some color that has some value in that background, so that it's not just white. And so we've done that before, huh? Let's go ahead, and this is a lot of water, sort of a thing, and here's some blues, and that. So get some water, get some blue, and put in. The nice thing about it is it's going to diffuse for us. We've discovered that already as we put that in, and put more in here, and we can come up about to him with some of these darker colors down here. Let's bring it all the way down to the side here so we can really make him more lighter colors. And I'm just I'm trying to get some of that blue around the place of his body, and then maybe down over here. It's not, the blue I have is a little bit of a medium blue as well. It's not a heavy dark blue. You can go dark though with those. That's good. It's interesting though, as soon as you hit, I hit like right here, boom, then the paint sticks there and it doesn't diffuse initially, but as you start to give it some time, all of a sudden the characteristics of that paper towel start sucking up the moisture and moving the paint around a little bit more with those. Okay. And I'm trying just to make sure I don't hit, I want to leave this area where his body is going to be, and so I don't intrude into that too terribly much, but I do want to have those other colors back here so that we can see that he has a lot of white to him with those. And I'm notice we're kind of going here like this, almost just surrounding him with the little bit of pigment, so you hit here, right, and it kind of stays there a little bit where there's a lot more of the blue, and so that gives the shape of the body a little bit, right, as we start to come around. And then hopefully if we do that right, it won't look too odd, but it will show the paint and the paper will work together on being able to show that line where the body is. Kind of like that. Let's come all the way down to here. Okay. All right, let's go and do, I wanted maybe a little more down here. Maybe some of that green stuff, huh? That we had, that we had here initially. Wow, that was green. I don't have the luxury with that I did with the the watercolor paper. When you hit it, it kind of stays on those, and it will diffuse eventually, somewhat. But if you hit it strong, it's gonna want to stay there for you. Particularly if you go into a dry area. If it's a little wetter, it's not as bad. Okay. One more, maybe a little bit over here. All right. Well, that's looking pretty snazzy as far as his colorings go and everything. Things that I may or may not want to do. This is looking pretty good. I can once it's dry, I can come back in with high concentration of pigment, and I could put more details in there. No, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. My brain just says, oh yeah, put more stuff in there. That's got to be darker. It doesn't have to be darker. Not underneath them anyway. Here I'm coming back and getting some dark values. I got those good mediums in there, right? And so let's get some of those darkest values they're really kind of in there as well. Maybe a few over here, right? Because remember, to show depth, you need lights, you need mediums, and you need darks to show the illusion of depth. And so I had some areas that were light, and I had some mediums. Now I'm coming back and I'm hitting the dark areas as well. And I realize this is taking just a little bit more time, but take as much time as you need. Stop the video, go get a sandwich or something like that. Pick it back up when you're back at it again. That'd be cool with those. I think I'm starting to get there on what I'm looking for. I really like that, how that stuck right there, how that value changed from that dark to the light on those ears. That was a good one. That was a good move. I actually did something right. Okay, well, I think I'm okay for right now. on where we're stopping with this one. I could come back in here. I'm wondering, maybe just a few little marks on maybe where the end of his body is, eh? And maybe that'll diffuse down a little bit more too. And so I'm going to call that one good for now on what we're doing. I can come back in later when it's all dry if I wanted to touch in with just a little bit more, but I think that's pretty good on what I'm looking for. The idea is that when it diffuses like that, when you depart from hard edge and where it's a little bit more fuzzy, it's more slightly of an emotional sort of a painting when you work for it, where people have to analyze it as, well, this reminds me a lot of a hedgehog and how it is, and so that fuzzy quality is able to have a little bit more emotion with it when it's not going after absolutely realistic, and people can explore parts of the paints, and you see the little things on how the paint diffuses in different areas and the different colors that are used, because it's about those sort of things, not about, well, did he do it photographically or something like that. That's not what our painting is going to be about with these. So that's about it. Hope you had some fun with that one, and catch you on the next one.